Hey guys, welcome to another YouTube video. My name is Joe, and in this video it's going to be exciting. I think we're going to be doing a step-by-step tutorial. A lot of my videos on my YouTube channel is always time-lapse video, and I feel like videos like that might be misleading and make it think like what I do is actually straightforward. Maybe most of the time it's not. So I've been getting a lot of comments. Joe, what's up? Let's do a step-by-step. Let's do a step-by-step. Let's try to slow it down a bit. So that's what I'm attempting to do with this one. And full disclosure, I do a lot of time lapse because it's a lot easier. It goes straight to the point. It helps people consume the material easily. And step by step seems to be a lot taxing. And I feel like I'm not so comfortable whenever I'm doing step by step. But in this one, I'm going to give it a go. Right here, I have a lot of references. As you can see, I have some Brazilian favelas. I have a lot of references and buildings here that we're going to be getting some inspirations from. And we're going to be creating things like this. And we're going to be combining it with a complete contrast, which is this kind of sophisticated brutalism style of building. This illustration of this brutalism building is from an artist. I hope I will get his name when I'm uploading this video, but it's an incredible artist. And I got these references from his Etsy account. And this is where I'll be pulling some kind of inspiration for the brutalism building. I'll be using my brutalism pack. It's completely, I have a free version and I have a paid version. You can check my Gumroad to get all of that. It will be in the description right there. So without further Sarah and Cho, let's get down to it. So right now I have my camera set up on this side. I have my 3D viewport on this side. I think here is where I'll be treating textures, and here will just be me switching between on shader menu, and I think I'll be using geometry node for this one also. So let's just do it basically out of the scene. Right now, what I'm thinking about is like, I think similar to my last video, and I'm just going to set up this to the side on this side here. And before I go any further, I want to make this lens a bit flatter. So right here we have 50 mil. I think I want to go 120 mil so that we have our elements a little bit flatter. What I'm going to do right here is, let me just bring up the cube, and I'm bringing it up with control so that the increments are going to be like the same, right? So right here, what am I thinking? So if you look at these favelas, you will notice that for some references, you will see they are arranged in such an irregular manner, and they are kind of one on top of another, step by step. In a way, it's kind of chaotic, but there's an orderliness to it, and that is what I'm going to try to achieve with my geometry node setup. So what I'm going to do first, I'm just going to bevel this and just give it a lot more segments. What I'm trying to achieve with this is like just a little step. So I'm going to go to custom, and in presets, we're going to click on step. So this is where our favelas are going to be standing, but I want this to be a little bit out of shot. I think the next thing I'm going to do is probably touch up the camera setup a little more. So I'm going to go to the camera, and instead of 1920 by 1080, I'm going to do 1920 by, let's do 900. Okay, a flatter and more cinematic aspect ratio. I think let's go on to building our favelas. What I didn't mention before I started this was the fact that I already had a texture setup that I'm going to be using to texture all this building. So we're just going to, let's keep this over here, and let's move our 3D cursor to this place. And then what I can do, I can just bring in a cube, scale that. We're just going to build in basic house element that I can just project on that texture, and we'll just call it a day. So I'm just going to do SY, and we're just going to extrude. Let's put a loop cut here. Then we can probably extrude this on the Z-axis and bring this tool down. Just basic house looking forms and shape. Those are what we're going to be doing. It's just going to be very easy. We have one. I'm going to duplicate this on the Y-axis. I think for this, we need about 5. So on the next one, I'm just going to duplicate this on the y-axis also and just make it look smaller a bit. I think in order to create a little bit variation, I'll bring the 3D cursor to this building. I'll scale it. Sorry, I'm a little bit fast. I don't want to make this video like 3 hours. So for the texturing, I'm just going to go to the shader menu, create a new one. I'll bring in an image texture. Then I'll look for that particular texture. I think I screenshotted it somewhere. So I'm just going to go to my desktop, search for it, and here is it. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to connect it to the base color, and we already have this looking manageable because it's going to be really small in the grand scope of the scene. So we have this. Let's just quickly go down to texturing. I just don't want to waste anybody's time. Then I can do cube projects. There's the cube projects. Then I can scale this, place it here. Okay, I think that's good. So for the roof, I already have some textures over here that I can use to texture the roof. So this is what we're going to be doing until we have all our building. What I want to do next is to introduce a little bit of tanks to it, not so much, just few tanks. So I'm just going to select this, bring cursor to selected. I'm going to bring in a cylinder, scale it down, and on the Z-axis, I'm just going to position it at one corner of the house, just one corner. I'm going to do it for just 2 buildings, not all. Project from view. I'm going to scale it, bring it down to this tank texture here. And I'm just going to scale. All right, so I think we have that. Something I want to do is just to make this look like a tank. E and the Z-axis, scale, nothing serious, very basic modeling setup. If you look at this building, they have some pipings, they have some wirings down here. So I'm going to bring in like an electric pole, and for that, I'm just going to bring in a basic cube, scale down, scale on the Z-axis. I'm going to J on the Y-axis, like I did, scale it down. I'm going to bring cursor to this subject here and bring in a cube, scale it on the X-axis, very easy setup. And I'm going to JZ, and I'm going to Shift Z. So in order to make this look more like an electric pole, I'm going to bring in a cube, merge all vertices not at the distance. I'm going to merge everything at the center. So I'm going to take that vertex up and then extrude on the Y-axis. So we have that. I'm going to select all of the vertices and then subdivide in the center over there. Before that, I'm just going to bring the origin to the center. I'm going to bring that vertex in the center, scale it down, and then bevel that. So this bevel is really scattered because all of this is still on step. So I'm going to just go to super ellipse. And now we have some wiring on our pole. I'm just going to scale that. And then I'm going to convert that to a curve. And from the curve menu, I'm just going to add geometry to that curve right there. I think our pole should have like more wire setup. So we're just going to do that. We're going to select this pose, UV, unwrap, and smart into projects. Rotate that by 90, and we're just going to place this in the wood aspect. So we should have that, but we don't have material in it. So we're just going to bring this, then connect this. I think we're still good. But something I want to do to this texture also is just to introduce a little bit of bump. So I'm going to bring in a bump node, connect the heights. For all of this, I'm just going to create one texture for it and just put it at the black color. Easy. Link all of that to that particular one. And let's change it to a mesh. Before that, I want to reduce the depth in those curves. So what I'm going to do, bring all of those down. So I think I'm good on that. I'm going to select all of it, visual geometry select, and merge it. So all of this building are just going to be having this electric pole right here. And I think we're cool. So something I want to make sure I do is make sure all of these are one object. As you can see, this is not one object. So I'm just going to be joining all of them. Is this one? No. So I'm just going to take all of this and then make sure the origin is to geometry and select all, and then make sure they're all in one position. So that's going to go to our step right here that we created initially, and we're going to create a new geometry node setup for it. I'm going to create a new, and for the geometry node, we're going to first introduce a distribute to face node. So this creates different points on the geometry face that we can distribute our favela building. Before we do that, let's just quickly go to the favela building and make sure they are in a group. We're going to name this a favela. So for this, I'm just quickly going to go next in the geometry node. I'm going to bring in an instance on points. I'm going to pull that in here, and you will notice that our points have disappeared, and that's because we need to bring in a collection. So I'm just going to select separate children as separate reset. We're going to move this to relative, separate children and reset children rather. And then what we're going to do, we're going to drag this collection and place on the instance. Right now, you see everything going crazy, and this is because the initial stairs, we didn't apply the scale of the stairs. Remember, we scaled it on different axes. We scaled it on the Z axis, we scaled it on the Y, we scaled it on the X, and we also introduced a bevel to it. So we need to apply that scale. But before we do that, I know that applying that scale is going to increase the count of this favela building. So I'm just going to decrease the density down to say 0.1 so that it's not so overbearing on the system. So I'm going to increase the density to 0.1 and then click the mesh, and I'm going to apply the scale on the mesh. So now we have something that looks like what we want. What we just need to do now is to control the scales of this building. As you can see, this building are inside each other. So we want to make sure some are big and some are small. Just try to create a little bit of randomness there. And to do that, I'm going to bring in a random node. I'll put in mind, I'm still in the geometry node workspace. So I'm going to bring in a float node. And for the float, I'm going to connect that to the scale. So with this now, I can add direct how big or small I want this building. So looking at our camera angle shots right here, I'm just going to bring down the max because I want this really small in the render. This is going to be a really large scene. It's going to be big. And the idea of the scene is just showing segregation between the poor and low income neighborhood and just the high income guys that are up there. So I just want to make sure that I capture that with the amount of tight settlement I'm going to be creating in this stairs. So I'm going to scale this. If we come closer here, you will see that it's just one architecture that is showing, and that's because we have not introduced more randomness. I'm just going to increase the density also a bit because we need to see this entire stairs covered. So there's more randomness, but it's still of one particular object. But in order to get a little bit more randomness right now, I think we can click on pick instance. So we'll see that even from here, let's go back. You would see if I switch off pick instance, you see that it's all the same thing. But now that I put it back on, you'll see that, okay, there's now randomness captured in the entire shot. So I'm going to bring up the minimum. Let's increase the maximum a bit more. I think this looks good, but I want to bring down the minimum. I want to bring down the maximum. Then I'm going to bring up the density, just so these loopholes are covered. So I'm just quickly going to go to the rendered view. I'm going to go to the world node, add an HDRI, and just run a very, very quick render. I just want to see what it looks like. I want to see if the repetitions are like showing. And as you can see, the repetitions is very visible. So I'm just going to cancel that. I'm going to go to our geo node, and I'm going to duplicate this random node because I'm going to plug that into the rotation. So in order to plug this into the rotation, we need the X, Y, and Z value of this showing. So instead of float, we want to go to vector that will give us access to that. So I'm just going to plug that into rotation. And now we can rotate these buildings in ways that we want. Right now, we see that the max is set to 1. We're just going to select everything and reset to 0. And we are back to where we want initially. What we want for this building is for this building to rotate on the Z axis. We don't want a building that is turning towards this side. We want it to rotate on the Z. So that's going to affect only the Z, and then we can rotate. Let me put up the overlay here so you see what's really happening. It changes back to 0. So we can rotate our buildings. We can also rotate from the max, also just making sure that all of these are actually looking different. So I think we are cool on this. The only thing I want to change is this blue building. So I'm just going to come to our favelas here, and I think the blue is a little bit distracting, so I want to reduce the impact of the blue. Select the blue face, and I'm just going to move it to a different area. All right, so I think this is cool. Something else I want to do is I didn't plug the bump node of our favela textures, so I'm just going to plug into the normal, and then I'm going to introduce a bump node. Remove that, plug it into the heights, and let me just see what this looks like. So that's probably too much bump. I'm just going to pull that back a bit. So I think we're cool. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to go to our pack. If you don't know, I have a concrete brutalism pack. It's there's a free version, and the pro version is just $5. It contains about 30 buildings. Last time I said 20, but I did a recount, and it's about 30 buildings in that pack. So with that, you can create whatever brutalism scene you wish to create. So for this, I'm just going to bring in, let's go to brutalism. I'm sure the link will be in the description, and you can get the building from the description there. It's a Gumroad link, and you can just get that. So I'm just going to reset the 3D cursor to the center of the scene and bring down the building to the center of the scene. So I'm going to RZ, and what I want to do is just place this in a way that is showing the separation between the two worlds. I'm going to bring this down a bit. Oh no. So GY, let's bring this into the shot a bit more. I think for this stairs, I probably want to switch off this geometry node, right? And I can go back to my references. This is where I'm pulling ideas from. This illustration, these are really, really good illustrations. So I'm going to duplicate this on the Y-axis towards this side. I think I probably want to mess with the camera angle a bit and then move all of this out of the shots. So what I want to do next, I'm going to select this tool and just bring cursor to the, I want to bring cursor to the center of the boat, and I'm going to introduce a cube. Let me see if I can just bring in the GNode so we know what we're working with. So I can GZ, let me bring this entire thing a bit back in the shot. So SX, and I'm going to add a loop cut here, right here, on this seam here, and then I'm going to create a bevel, apply the scale, and just extrude along the normals, just like that. Very, very easy setup. And I'm just going to create some loop cuts around here, probably too much. Let's do this, and then we can bevel those. What I need to do is just take these faces. I'm going to select faces with similar area, but it didn't select, so I'm just going to insert this and extrude. So right now we have something similar to this. The only thing is that we need to take these edges right here and pull it back on the x-axis. So I think we're close to what we have in our shot. All right, so in the reference, there is this image I like. This outburst of red contrasted by the blue in the environment. I really like that look. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to recreate that in this shot right here. And I'm going to bring in this element here, raise that on the G-axis a bit, and I'm going to duplicate that. Then I'm going to press P, separate the entire mesh from what I had previously, and I'm going to extrude on the Z-axis, GZ. So now I have this separate element, and what I'm going to do with that, I'm going to bring the origin to geometry, and I'm going to scale this on the Z-axis. So right now we have this setup right here. What I'm going to do is just select these faces, and then what I want to do, I want to insert, but I think I need to apply the scale first, then insert individually, and then extrude into the face. All right, so I'm going to select this face. I'll select one with a similar area. It's selecting rubbish from me, so I'm just going to select manually, and I'm going to GX. So I think this is good. So this surface is going to be our concrete material, like this. I'm just going to select this, scale it. Maybe I probably want to reproject and then scale this. Let's see what it's looking like. Probably not looking the way I want, so I'm just going to go to UVs, go to the node setup. What does that look like? I think the second UV is missing, so I'm just going to set that and just rotate. Okay, I think this is good, but then remember we're trying to achieve this red emission look right here. So I'm just going to go and change this to just materials, and then select these faces right here, and I'm going to create a new material, and that material is going to be an emission node. So I'm going to change this to emission and then assign it. I'm going to change this to just the stack red emission. Always do orangish emission. Let's increase the emission to 7, and we're cool. I think I want some railings in front of it, so I'm just going to GZ. I think something I also want to do, I also want humans to be showing from this place. I don't know if I'm going to be able to achieve that in good time, but I want to also add some more buildings to the back of that shot right there. So I'm going to go to my asset browser. I'm going to go to my Brutalism asset pack. Like I said, it's all on Gumroad. You can get it for yourself. So I'm just going to select, let's do this building right here. I'm going to scale that to GZ. Let me rotate on the Z-axis. And can I see that in the shot? I think I can see it in the shot right here. Okay. So GY, let's scale that. That's good. And then I want to bring in this GZ. Let's see what that looks like. Let's rotate Z-axis by 90 degrees. Probably want to Z-axis so that I can direct the placement of this building properly. So GZ, let's move this on the Y-axis. I think I want to duplicate this to this other side right here and bring this down in the shot now. Let's increase. I think this is going in the shot like this. So I'm going to bring in some more buildings to fill out the middle space. So I feel like this shot is good. I just want to see a rendered image and see what that looks like. Okay, this is cool. Then for the favelas, what I want to do, I want to go down here and you would see that most of the time it shows there are trees in the favelas. Like, I think it's not showing my textures there, but you see it in the reference. They are like trees that just grew out of these Brazilian buildings. So I want to bring in some buildings into this our shot, right? So I'm going to open my botanic add-on and spawn in some exciting trees. Let's do this. I like this is full. So I'm going to bring it into the shot, scale it down, and just select different parts and just insert it there. I think that's cool. Something I want to do also, I think this far end of the render, I want to block it off. So what I want to do, I think this is going to probably be barbed wired. So I'm going to bring in some scaffolding. So I'm just going to model basic scaffolding. I think this should be one, this should be one, this should be one. So I'm just going to extrude on the z-axis, just like this. So I'm going to scale down. And then I'm going to poke faces. So I'm going to go to the search and look for poke faces. And I can apply this scale and apply the wireframe modifier to it. So what I'm going to do next is just shift D, Y, just so it occupies the entire length of the fence. And then I think I'm cool with this. What I want to do next is to block off this part that I talked about. So this part that is exposed, let me just do a quick render so you see what I'm talking about. So this part that is exposed in the render, what I want to do for this area is I want to duplicate this fence to this side so it shows that these low-income buildings are boxed in. So I want to just cancel that, go to the z-axis. My scene is so heavy. I don't know what's going on. So heavy. Let me put off my geometry node. So we're going to copy this entire brick texture with Alt. We're going to change our pivot point from individual origins to bounding box. I'm just going to rotate. Let's rotate back by 90 degrees. Perfect 90 degrees. So for this part right here, I want there to be some electric poles. So I'm just going to go to my Sketchfab add-on, or let me see if I have on Polyhaven. So let me just check Sketchfab. I think I'm going to find the Sketchfab. I think for these electric poles, what I'm going to do, let me first remove the parent. I think the only pole I would be needing is this one. So I'm just going to copy that and delete the rest. So for this, I'm just going to move the 3D cursor to where I want to place the pole and bring the selection down to that 3D cursor. So I'm just going to GZ. Let's see what that pole is looking like in the render view. Never showing, but we're just going to go on with it. Let's GZ. Let me see if I can raise that a bit higher. And I'm going to change this to array. So I'm going to move this on the Y, create a simple array system. Let me see how that is looking. I think that pole is a bit too big. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to bring down the height. I think we're good. What I would just want to do, however, is to make sure our lights on this poles is switched on. So I'm just going to focus on this part right here. I think the pole is already textured. What I just need to do is select this face. And I think the selection is good. All I need to do is just create a new texture. Or I think I have an emission set up already. So I'm just going to use this one and assign. And it's all shine bright. Then before I actually look into killing the lights in the scene and add directly the lights the way I'd want, I want to bring in the sky. So for the sky, we're just going to be using an image as plane. I hope I am still recording. Okay, I'm still recording. Just going to bring in an image as plain. I think I downloaded the sky I want to use. So let me just go through my downloads. Okay, so this is the sky we're going to be using. I'm going to scale that. Bring that back here in the shots. Rotate. Let me GZ. RZ. I probably want to go to my camera. Here's my camera. Okay, scale the camera so I can see. Set, copy. I say copy. Select my sky texture. Select my camera, and I'm just going to copy rotation. And the rotation of the camera is going to be the same as the plane. So when I rotate here, I'm rotating in one axis. What I want to do also is probably copy the sky to this side. I don't know if it's going to show, but I just want it to be on this side also. And GZZ. And then scale, so it occupies the entire frame. I don't want to bring in volumetrics right now. I want to make sure I've nailed all the lightings that I want to do. So I think volumetrics is going to be last for me. So let me make sure that my camera is not locked so I can leave that camera view. And then turn off all the lights. No, we're not turning off all the lights. We are turning off the HDRI. So I'm going to bring that all down to 0. And you see our emission light is actually on and active. Now that I'm looking at this light, I'm not sure about this light on this side. I think I want to take it out, but let me just leave it for a bit first. Let me leave it. I'm not really sure about the light. I'm not textured this poles. I think the poles are good. Literally, I think it's good. So for the lighting, I'm going to be using a gobo as we usually do. I'm going to go to my assets, go to a gobo texture light, select the gobo, and I'll be using, let's use a cloudy light. So I'm going to bring in these lights, move to the y-axis, G, rotate that light to face our scene, and you'd see from our scene right here, you see that it's already highlighting certain parts of our scene. What I want to do, I want to increase the size on that texture so it captures in more area, and I'm going to raise this up a bit. What I want to rotate on the z-axis so that this part of the render is somehow darker, right? So we have this. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to increase, and then for the lights, I want to make this fall off a bit softer, and I'm going to increase the blend. No, I don't think it's the blend that's causing the softness. I think it's the size. So I'm going to increase the size, and our light becomes softer. Let me just drop the intensity of that light a bit more, and I'm going to put a light here. Let's bring in an area light, rotate that on the Y by 180. And I'm going to scale on the Y also, and I'm going to GX. Let me not put on this side first. I feel like this side should get an highlight first. Then with this, I'm able to determine the intensity I want for the other ones. So I'm going to rotate on the y-axis and just face it on this building and blast that light so much. So we are seeing the light affect the buildings back there, but it's a bit intense. I'm going to pull that back a bit, and then I'm going to change the color of that light. Okay, I think we are cool on that blue light, or not blue, I think that's cyan. So we're cool on that cyan light over there. Maybe I want to pump it up a bit more. Another place that I probably would want this light is right here. I want to show a bit more depth to this area. So what I would do, I would just do a fresh duplicate. The last one I did a link duplicate. That's why I deleted it. I'm just going to bring the whole thing down here and bring down the light significantly. Then for these textures, I feel like I want to bring down, add a curve node, or just use an existing curve node there to just bring down the brightness of the buildings so they're looking really dark, right? I think we have that locked in. So I think we're ready to bring in our volumetric. So the first place I'm going to add the volumetric is this. The way I add volumetric, I add like section by section, so I don't add entire volumetric to the whole scene. So I add one for the background, one for the midground, and maybe one for the foreground if needed. So I'll just bring in one volumetric box for this part of the render. I'm going to create a quick volume, remove that. I'm going to add a principal volume node, connect that to the volume, and we have that looking like the way we want it to off the grid, which is strange. But what I want to do, I want to bring it down. Let's see, 0.2. Nope. Let's do 0.01 because I'm not seeing the building. Okay, so I see the building now, and our volumetric scatter is working. So let me see if I can increase this to 0.3. And let me change this box to just bounds. So I want to bring the volumetrics a bit further. But before I do that, I see that the blacks in this render are really, really black. So I want to just have a hint of fill light provided by the HDRI. So I'm just going to turn up the HDRI by 0.1 and see how it's going to fill out the entire environment. I think it's filling it out. It's filling it out perfectly for now. Yeah, I feel like it's working for now. Yeah. But for this side of the render, this side is really, really dark. This side, which is an important part to the storytelling, I want to duplicate our gobo and just focus on that part. Duplicate and rotate. I think that's cool, but I want to make this gobo a different gobo. So I'm just going to go to our object, go to relations, make single user and object and data, and I'm just going to increase the strength of that gobo like crazy. Okay, I think that's good. Not crazy. I think just one is good. Okay, so let's duplicate our volumetric and just bring further. I'm just going to Shift D, scale this. So we'll have volumetric on the foreground. It's taking time to activate here. So I think that volumetric is good. What I would just do is to make this a different user and bring this down to say 0.1. That's perfect. What I want to do next, I want to bring in some fog clouds. So I'm just going to go to my fog plane, add on, select the fog. Let's bring in some aerial fog. No, let's do ground fog. Oh no, I wanted to do ground fog, but it's cool. Let's just go. Let's go on. So, like I said in the beginning, I want to bring in some figures into this places right here. I don't know how best to go about that. Let me see if I can find some on Sketchfab. Sketchfab rather. Scale it down. Something I want to do, I probably want to make sure that textures is black. I just hope this will work. This is just a cheaty way to do this. I hope it works. So I think our figures are doing what they are supposed to do. Looks good. But let me do an overall render of everything. I think most of this part of this video, there's going to be a lot of part that's going to be forwarded, a lot of part that's going to be moved, just so that it doesn't get boring. I think something I want to change is the roofing of these buildings. I didn't expect it to be this repetitive, so I'm going to go back to my favelas and just randomize the textures a bit. Maybe some will have some of the metal texture, some might be just concrete on the roof. So some of the rules need to change. I feel this should be, let me see the culprits in this thing. All right, let's just run a quick render and see what that looks like. I think the color of that sky, I'm probably going to fix it in post because I'm really not getting it right now. So what I'm just going to do, I'm going to run a render, take it over to Photoshop, and I'll catch you guys there. All right, guys, so this is the final image we have out of Blender. I'm just going to right click this and change it to Smart Object, go to Filter, and just go straight to Camera Raw to just fix things and make things work. I think I'm just going to start with the lights. What I'm going to do first is I'm just going to control the exposure a bit. I'm just going to bring it up, and then images out of Blender originally just come in really flat, so I'm going to bump up the contrast. It's hard. Then I'm going to pump up the highlights, and then the shadows, I want to make those darker, and the blacks I want to make those darker also. All right, so we're cool with that. What I'm going to do next, I'm just going to go straight into color and just inject a little bit of blue into the entire atmosphere, just a hint of blue. I think that's cool. I'm going to go next to effect, and I'm going to affect the clarity of the image, and I'm just going to pump up clarity. So I think clarity is good, then just a little bit of texture, because if you go crazy with texture, it takes away from the dynamic of the image. So I just want to just pump up a little bit of texture. Then I'll bring a little bit of the haze just so that our fog doesn't get lost in the contrast. Then I'm going to bring in a little bit of vignettes and then pump up, make sure that it's feathered out very, very well. Then I'm going to bring in more grains to the image, just to add an overall feel to the entire image. So this is what we have right now. I'm just going to close this, go to curve. I think for curve we're good. So this is our final image out of Blender. If I was to do this again, let me just see if I can look for more smoke overlay. Smoke overlay. So what I want to do with the smoke overlay is to just bring in a little bit of smoke to this area. This area seems very bare. So I'm just going to bring in a smoke overlay. I'm going to change this to overlay. Or what plane was this? The screen. Let's change it to screen. I'm just going to change it to smart object first, and then apply a mask so that I can go around the image and feather it off. So I'm just going to try to see if I can get some better masking on this part by using a thin brush and just go around the edges like this. Around the edges like this. And think like this. If it looks weird, I'm just going to take it off completely. Okay, it does look weird. It does look weird. So I'm just going to reduce the entire fog so it doesn't show so much. And then maybe use a soft brush to taper the edges a bit more. Okay, so I think I'm cool on that. That's fine. So I think that's pretty much it. I'm just going to go on to create. Let me just bump up the grains in the image. So I'm just going to make my thumbnail, close out the video, and so that's it, guys. So long, and until I see you in the next one. Peace.